It feels like, because that's when I'm up. Okay, good to see you guys today. Welcome in. This is going to be a really great call. This is with registered dietitian Michelle Hurn, who has got an incredible experience as an athlete. We're going to jump in on this live. Shannon Davis, another registered dietitian, is going to be talking about this. And this is about metabolic health, and how this protocol and what I talk about and what we teach with metabolic health is so very important. It's a great call. It really is. So those of y'all here, you're interested in learning more about your health. It really kind of blows the perspective on some things. And these are incredible ladies who have got an incredible amount of experience and wealth of knowledge. And I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to share this with you today. So without further ado, let me switch things up just a little bit, and make sure that they get the screen and it's not me on here, because that's not what y'all want to see. Here we go. Let's get it here, and we're going to see from, move this up, and let's do this. Dun, dun, dun. Move it down. We'll do it that way. Oh, all right. Let's try this one. Love technology some days, right? There we go. All right. Let's jump into this live, and
Jill she's a celebrity, guys. She is not just a local RD. Michelle's been on all these summits, all these podcasts. She's met all these doctors that we listen to and think are just amazingly famous. Michelle knows them all. And Michelle is also an author. She has wrote a book called The Dietitian's Dilemma that she'll probably touch on. So I'm going to let Michelle tell her story. She's going to talk a little bit about exercise. She's a pro athlete. And she's going to talk a little bit about mental health, as that is something that's near and dear to her heart. So without further ado, welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. I still don't know about celebrity, but I'll take it. I appreciate it. Yeah, well, you guys, like Shannon said, I'm a registered dietitian, but my health journey actually began when I was 12 years old. When I was 12 years old, I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. I was at that time 5 feet tall and 57.5 pounds. So I was immediately, put into inpatient treatment. I was put on the 24-hour tube feeding system. And, the tube feeding ingredients back then, maltodextrin, soy protein, canola oil, corn syrup are the same as they are now. And I was told, even at the age of 12, I was told if you do recover, you're going to have anxiety, depression, racing thoughts around food your whole life. So I remember even when I was super young being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to become this high functioning person with, an eating disorder and with depression. And they weren't wrong. I was so fortunate, I did recover. I did become weight restored, but I had chronic anxiety and depression. I like to kind of say it was like I was standing on the sidelines of my own life. It seemed like my friends weren't always worried about what they were eating, but I was. I had all kinds of stomach pain. I had all kinds of joint pain. And I wanted to become a dietitian because, I'd seen what food could do. I was very sick and I was weight restored, but I had this chronic anxiety, And so when I got into the dietetics program, there were so many things that didn't make sense. We'd go into the room with somebody with type 2 diabetes, and my preceptor would say, we're going to teach them to eat carbohydrates consistently throughout the day. And I would just ask questions. I would say if their blood sugar is high, should we teach them to eat less carbs? And no, you need carbohydrates. We'd go into the room with somebody who was very obese, and they were telling us, I can't consume all this sugar. I can't do it. And the dietitian, you need to do it. It's moderation. Moderation is the key. And then when we go into the rooms in the ICU, same thing. They were having those tube feeding ingredients. I remember flipping it over. I was like, oh my God, this is what I was fed when I was 12. It's this corn syrup, sugar nonsense. I'm 41 now and it's the same. But you're young. You don't know, I'm like, okay. So you become a dietitian. And I just saw the cycle of sickness. I saw people come in with prediabetes and then pretty soon diabetes. And then what do you know, they're back with heart failure and kidney failure. And some of you guys probably have seen this, maybe in yourselves, maybe in your family members, and you're doing what you're supposed to do. Doctors would tell me, it's just the patients aren't following our advice. They just need to eat healthier, more whole grains, more vegetables. And most people were genuinely trying to do that. I would talk to people and they say, I'm really trying. And it was just so hard, you know, and if you've ever worked in the healthcare system, you have all these patients, and it was a mess, you know. And at that time, like Shannon alluded to, I became an athlete. I became a distance runner, and I was training for a marathon. So kind of my come to Jesus moment where I made a very large shift in my life is I was trying to qualify for the Olympic trials in the marathon back in 2019. And it just seemed like all of a sudden my body stopped recovering. I used to be able to run like 10 or 12 miles, and I would go on a short run and I would break out in cold sweats, and my muscles were achy. I wasn't recovering. And at that time I was eating so many carbohydrates, you know, probably like 350, 400 grams. And dietitians and doctors told me I wasn't eating enough. I needed to eat more. As you can imagine, that didn't go particularly well. And one night I came home from the hospital. We had a young patient pass. I fell asleep on the couch, and I woke up at like 3 a.m. And maybe some of you guys can relate to this, so where you just feel like, I don't know what else to do. I've tried a lot of different things. At that point, I had tried, you know, I'd ask all the doctors. I'd had my labs done. I tried all this nutritional stuff. I tried backing off on my training. I tried conventional stuff. I tried strange things. And so I'm sitting in my living room at 3 a.m. like, I'm out of answers. And so I drove to 7-Eleven. I got 30 pounds of ice. I put it in a bathtub, and I'm just sitting in the an ice bath bawling. And, you know, that's when my partner came in, and she was like, maybe we should do something different. And I was like, yeah, I'm done running. I was 36 at the time. I said, I'm done. And at that point, y'all, I had aspirations to, you know, try to go to the Olympic trials, try to, you know, be elite. And it was heartbreaking. And if you had told me though, like, oh my gosh, Michelle, that moment in the bathtub is going to be a pivotal turning point of your life, I would have told you, like, you know, get out of here. But because I was like, well, if I'm not running, maybe I should eat less carbohydrates. Maybe I should eat less sugar. And everything in my dietetics degree told me, no, that's bad. That's dangerous. Fat is bad for you. Saturated fat is bad for you. But I was in so much pain, you know, you hit that point that you just get curious. And so I started doing research into ketogenic diets. And at that time, carnivore diets were relatively, you know, newer. And I was blown away because I worked at a hospital. So I had access to all these clinical trials, like all the clinical trials they had on type 2 diabetics and keto diets. So I was like, why hasn't anybody told me we can reverse diabetes? I got excited. I printed things out. I took it to my clinical director. I was like, this is incredible. Like, you know, and of course I immediately was met with like, no, we're not doing that. And as somebody with a history of an eating disorder, you know, certainly my wife is very concerned, like this, keto, that's bad for you. That's eating disorder. This isn't good. And I just had this intuition, I have to try this. And I thought maybe all the protein, maybe that will help my muscles. Maybe I'll feel better. First week, I'm not going to lie, was rough. You got to remember, I was eating a lot of carbohydrates. We're talking like, you know, 400 plus grams. So that, you know, that first week, everyone's like, how's that diet? And you're like, oh my God, you have a headache. Take salt and electrolytes.
Yeah.
Didn't do that. I would do that. But yeah, by day like 7 or 8, I remember sitting in a meeting and feeling kind of calm. I wasn't hungry every 2 hours. It was unique. And then like the third week into the diet, this was like another pivotal point, is, you know, my wife had actually beat me home from work, and I got home and she said, I want to talk to you. Which if you're in a relationship and someone says that, that's usually like, oh geez, what did I do? Did somebody die? Like, and right. I went and sat next to her and she said, I don't know if I like this way of eating, but this is the best your anxiety has been in the 11 years that I've known you.
Wow.
And you guys, we were both just out there like, what's going on? Nobody in my entire dietetics career, throughout my struggles with anorexia, and I don't mind sharing, like severe depression and suicidal ideation, self-injury, had told me ketogenic diets, if we can switch the fuel in your brain, you can potentially free yourself from this. Nobody told me that. And so you go through a period where you get kind of angry. And that's what led to writing the book, The Dietitian's Dilemma. And I cover heart disease, you know, mental health, eating disorders. And since then, I've been a low carb. You know, I decided like, oh, wow, you know, I'm going to do the low carb, and it changed my life. All of a sudden I had energy. I felt great. And initially I had no really aspirations to start running. Like, you know, I thought I'm done. And then when I felt better, I started dreaming again. And that's when, you know, my poor partner, like, oh, you can be a recreational runner. This will be fun. So now I compete in ultra marathons. So that's distances over 26 miles. And I ran my first ultra in November 2020. It was supposed to be earlier. Everything kept getting canceled. And so now I've run 7 ultra marathons. I've won 5 of them. And, you know, I met Shannon, gosh, I don't know, Shannon, how long it's been, but, you know, reached out to me to talk about Unimate and talk about balance in the feel-good system. And, you know, I already am so happy with low carb, you know, really dialed in. I taught my body how to burn fat for fuel. I felt like I was in a pretty good space mentally. So, you know, I was kind of skeptical, like, really, this like tea thing, you know. But one, I was very impressed with, you know, anytime someone says, well, let me show you the data, let me show you the science, you know, it's not just flashy. I was like, okay, I'm curious, because I'm always interested in how I can, one, as an athlete, potentially perform better. And 2, just as someone with a history of mental health disorder, like, I'm very cognizant that this is something I need to keep in check, right? And so I was initially very surprised. The 2 biggest things that happened, you know, I saw that, wow, okay, Unimate can potentially help me burn more fat for fuel. As an endurance athlete, you need that. You know, it's amazing. You'll see all these people like sucking down goos and gels. Because I'm so fat adapted, I don't need nearly as many carbs. So anything that can help me increase my ability to burn fat, increase my ketones, so I can think better, I can function better, like, I'm all in. So I started to notice right away, like, my recovery is really good. Like, I'm running faster than normal, you know, and you're kind of like, is this for real? Is this not for real? And then the Unimate kind of spread to my house, because my wife doesn't run. We actually ran out, and she's like, where's that tea stuff? Because I use that to fast. That really helps me. And so we kind of argued. I was like, no, I need it for my running, you know, and so obviously we purchased more. But since starting this, I mean, 2 things that I can say for myself, and I could certainly, you know, speak for people in my family that are not using it. So as an athlete, you know, my recovery has been significantly better. And I was wondering, like, wow, is it just because I'm burning more fat? But I think, you know, doing the research, looking at the data and talking with Shannon, you guys, and some of y'all probably noticed you're less achy. Your muscles aren't hurting. You know, the Unimate is literally increasing glutathione. So it's a very powerful antioxidant. It's helping get rid of the inflammation of my muscles. And so you recover better. You feel better. It's like, you know, because for me, I need to be able to run 20 miles one day and come back and run 10 the next day and just go, not think about it. I need to be able to run 20 miles and then be able to run a mile fast, you know, which I know is kind of a unique situation. But, you know, if you're somebody that just is in pain, like, oh, I'm achy, it's amazing when you get your body in that more anti-inflammatory state. And then once again, let's talk real quick about the mental health aspect. You know, it just, there's so much research now, especially if you know somebody, or maybe someone in your family is dealing with anxiety, OCD, depression. If we can get your ability to oxidize fat higher, if we can get your brain to fuel with ketones versus glucose, you know, it can function. A lot of people with major depression, with anxiety, we just don't process glucose in the brain very well. And why does this show up for some people when they're 20, when they're 50? I don't know. And honestly, I don't care a whole lot. I'm sure we'll have more data with brain scans. But it's been absolutely fascinating to me that a simple product, and like I said, if you're skeptical, I was too. I think smart people are skeptical, you know, but after using it and then seeing how it's, you know, in my family, and like I said, my partner uses it to intermittent fast. You know, my sister-in-law is now down 20 pounds on a low carb diet, and she's tried all kinds of different things, and she always struggled with the sugar cravings. Because, like, I'm sure Shannon and other people have told you, like, hunger always wins. So, you know, this is another amazing thing about it, is it increases your body's own production of GLP-1. And that's fascinating to me. Not only does it do that, but it also stops the breakdown. For the ferulic acid, actually stops the breakdown of the enzyme that destroys GLP-1. So you don't have all that, you know, hunger noise, the food noise.
Right.
So many different benefits from one incredible product. And I just recently got to try the salted caramel. Like, so now I have, like, I don't know, it's amazing. So, you know, I'm honored to share my story, to share my advocacy, and just thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thank you for telling your story. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. We'll bring Michelle on at the end if y'all have questions, but if you want to go check out her book, she tells her whole story in her book. It's pretty profound. It's you'll cry in there in a good way. It's just her pouring her whole heart out, and she's one of us. She's a dietitian just like me that was not okay with what we were teaching our patients, what we were being told to tell you because it wasn't working. And, you know, kudos for going against the grain and experimenting with yourself. And now you're telling the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, we are going to go over what this amazing protocol that you've heard Carla and Linda and now Michelle talk about is the Feel Great system. So before we get started, I would love to hear from, how many do we have? 416 people on this call. Unbelievable. How many of y'all have tried this? And if you have tried it, what has been your results? A little bit about me. Again, I've been a dietitian for 19 years. Organ transplant, I did bariatrics, I did nephrology, and a little bit that I don't like to admit, pharmaceutical sales. Never in my career, ever in the 19 years, or let's see, the 16 prior to finding the Feel Great system, have I ever seen people get better like I see now. I mean, message after message after message hits my phone. Let me find, I just got one last night that literally brings me to tears. Let's see. Hold on, guys. It's too profound not to tell you. Okay, here we go. So this person's been diabetic for over 10 years. The 5th day into the system, blood sugars that were in the high 300s have been at 130 and maintained straight. In 5 days, this person is profoundly just in awe. He called me today to tell me, thank you for introducing me to this. I know when you told me about it, I was a bit skeptical. I didn't know what to believe, but I don't know what it is, but it is, I just can't even stop talking about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. And thank you, Michelle, earlier. I'm going to stop my screen share here. I'm going to switch over to another live here that I'll be doing in a second. But just so you're aware that they've been talking about, I am not Shannon Davis, by the way. I'm Coach Ken. Oh, look at you coming on there being rude. So here's the thing. The Feel Great system is this actually, no, this is from a replay. I'm live, but the video that you were watching with Michelle Davis and with Michelle and Shannon, that was replay. And so, because I always like to learn, so this is part of replays that give more information. But no, this is really me. And what Shannon was sharing was from the Feel Great system and the experience that both she and Michelle had on it. And to explain just a little bit about the Feel Great system is what she was talking about was the Unimate and the fiber. These two come together as part of the Feel Great system that they were talking about. And what it is one tea. This is the Unimate that she talked about with the chlorogenic acid that helps with endurance and recovery in exercising. It's just simply mixed up in a tea. This is an herba. Oh yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, and I have a lot of these where I bring on the scientists because, like I said, I'm always learning. I want to learn and I want to provide that opportunity for other people. And I'm able to do that. I have permission to do these calls. Again, sometimes I actually do them live. I'm going to try Dr. Dieter Wufon is going to be tonight talking about gut dysbiosis. I have a recording with him, but I'm going to try to do live tonight if I can get everything plugged in. But here's the thing. So doing the tea and the fiber is simply mixing it up. This is an yerba mate concentrate. So if you're familiar with yerba mate tea, this is in a concentrated form, so you don't have to brew anything. And you can drink it hot or cold. I prefer it cold. Since drinking it for me, not only had it increased my energy and brought down my brain fog, it did increase my body's natural GLP-1. And it helped me to lose 50 pounds in the course of about 4 months and to keep it off. And I'm still on it. My wife, Dr. G, and I, who we do Healthy Together and Feeling Great, we do our coaching with this. She's been a doctor for over 30 years, a dentist, and the benefits of the theobromine that are in here are actually similar to that as fluoride, which has been one of the research and studies. So this has been a big game changer for her, and also helping people, as she says, to not need her anymore. Because when you're metabolically healthy, it actually helps the mouth microbiome. So the tea is also, this was one of those that has been Zach Bitters, who owns a couple of the world records for long distance running, Vladimir Guerrero, Shaquille O'Neal. And if we look at the Brazil soccer team, they took over 1,000 pounds of yerba mate. They didn't take Unimate, and if they did, they might have performed better, but I can't say that. They definitely got the benefits of that. So the Unimate, when you order the Feel Great system and you start on this, you can get 2 of these a day. You can order more if you want, but the Feel Great system is 2 a day. Plus, then there's a fiber. So you get 60 of the teas and then 30 of the fiber. And this is key for the gut microbiome, is the fiber. And if you are on here, we talk nutrition. We're talking about fiber, fats, and proteins. When we eat, we want to eat until we're full. We want to make sure this starts by stimulating your body's GLP-1. On average, in the US, Americans, we get not near enough fiber in our diet. In fact, we average about 10 to 12 grams when we need closer to 25 to 30. So the fiber in here is a blend of soluble and insoluble fibers that we have traditionally been eating for thousands of years. So if you're interested in starting on the protocol, you can sit there, you can follow the link right over here. I'm going to switch over to this guy right here. I thought I had this one up there. This is the fiber protocol right here. And either of those links would work just fine. So the tea and the fiber, all right, that we do with the coaching, this is what Shannon was talking about, what Michelle was talking about. If you're interested, there's a $70 discount. This is exactly what I pay every month, everybody that is involved in it. The founder of the company, all right, he pays the same thing. We all do. And when you order it, you get a 90-day money-back guarantee. You get our coaching with that. That's one-on-one coaching on nutrition, on where you're at. We personalize everything. This isn't just something, and we do that discount because we want people to have the coaching. And once you follow that link and you order, I'll get an email, text message, and we'll start conversation even before you get the tea and the fiber. The videos that I have on here, we'll get on the phone. We'll start coaching. I'll start helping with that. In fact, coming the 1st of February, Dr. G and I are going to be doing a 10-day sugar detox, which will go right along. This makes it so much easier to do that in getting that out of our diet. So thank y'all so much for being here. If you do have any questions, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. All right. Get on our email list. If you go to healthyalaska.live, you can do that. The link is up there. I'll try to get it in the bio as well. Anybody have any questions at this point? I see we've got some folks in the room. Any questions anybody's got? Thank y'all so much for being here. If you do, don't hesitate to reach out. As I always say, go get the day, go be excellent to one another, and go be excellent self. So it's concentrated antioxidants, minerals, and fibers. Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, the concentrated, the tea is in the concentrated form. This is yerba mate concentrated. And the fiber is as well. So you're getting concentrated plant fibers. It's 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers that are in here, all plant fibers. And the tea is the same way. It's yerba mate. There's not any fillers in this. It is actually in the PDR.net, which is, and the research that backs it up. It's been studied at the Cleveland Clinic. It's been studied at the University of Sydney. The benefits of that, Brigham Young University, Stanford University, UNLV. And so if you were on the call and you got to hear from Michelle and Shannon, that's what the big game changer is as far as that goes. And so, yeah, it's concentrated in those, but it just comes from primarily that tea and from those plant fibers. It's been around actually for over 30 years. And the company Unicity has been around. It was originally part of Rexall drugs. I don't know if y'all remember Rexall back. it's like over 100 years old, and this was getting lost in the mix when the research was coming out because of issues with the company. And the owner of the that decided to do Unicity leveraged everything he had, because he said, this is life changing. We've got this research. Let's jump on it. Does it dissolve fully in cold water? Yes. Totally dissolved. That's my little shaker ball right there. When you order, you get this. Yeah, it will dissolve. You just shake it up really good. That's really a weird thing to do. But yeah, you just shake it up. I don't want to rattle it all over. But yeah, you just shake it up a couple of times, turn it over. And so, yeah, it dissolves fully in cold water. The tea and the fiber both do. You typically, with the tea, I put it in about, I like to do it in about 28 to 32 ounces and sip on it through the day. I typically do one tea and sip on it all day long. And then I focus on my fiber, because I had a lot of gut issues. My late wife died of colon cancer. So fiber is a big thing. I was on GERD for almost 20. I had GERD for almost 20 years. Still, my gut's still recovering. But I do the fiber. It does the same thing. You just mix this up in cold water in about 6 to 8 ounces, and drink it right before your biggest meal. As I talk about as a nutrition coach, that helps you think your stomach as a bag. It's not a blender. So the fiber, when you put that fiber in, coats the esophagus, coats the gut lining, helps to feed the gut microbiome, to help that heal, to help coat the inside, and it changes the profile of the food. So it slows digestion down. And it makes sure that, particularly if you're having any of the food you eat, actually is going to do that. But when you have carbohydrates, bread, rice, starches, any of that. Thanks for the questions. And I hope that this has been helpful. This is going to be recorded on my page. So it's more healthier and powerful. I said, ooh, you get some new words in there, right? Yes. Yes. It's actually way more powerful and helpful, really, than anything. There's 375 times the chlorogenic acid that you're going to get in because of its concentrated form, the polyphenols that are in it and the benefits of it, the ferulic acid that's in there. All of those benefits are going to help with that. The theobromine with natural energy. So as opposed to Gatorade with all the sugar. Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Make sure you subscribe. I'll have more videos coming out on this, and I come on live every single day. So I will be here to answer more questions about it. So yeah, don't hesitate to throw that out there. That's a huge part of it. So, it also has the mate saponins in it. So, when we talk about that helps to deal with the body fat and helps the body to burn that as well, and lower your triglyceride levels, which, is definitely a big thing as well. So awesome. You're so very welcome. All right. As I was saying before, so go get the day, make it golden. And I said, go be excellent to one another. Go be excellent to yourself. Awesome, Ryan. And don't hesitate to reach out. All of my contact information is up there. Our email list. I've got to change everything, but if you go to alaskahealthy.live, scroll to the bottom, and you can register for that and do our email list. Anthony, no, I'm not. I'm happily married. And if you'll see in the profile pictures, the beautiful Dr. G is my wife. How about you, my friend? And no judgment on there whatsoever if you are. So anyway, thank y'all so much for being here. We'll see you back